the starting point. Starting Point is a virtual living room where I get to bring in guests that I really appreciate to talk about whatever we want to talk about, but under the theme of facing our fears, getting over anxiety, how faith informs those things. And so I'm very excited to have the guest that I have on today. And I'm going to turn it over to her to let her introduce herself. Tell everyone who you are.
You're just a great hype woman. Hi everyone. My name is Andreza, and I'm from Nacogdoches. So that's actually where I met Jasmine. And I don't know, what is there to say? I'm a mom. I'm a wife. I've got a 4-year-old and a 2-year-old, and right now our 4-year-old's going to preschool, and I stay at home with our 2-year-old, and we're always on the go, always doing something fun, trying to get out of the house and going out to the parks and enjoying nature. I mean, just trying to be active as a family is kind of one of our big things. So I guess I'll let you ask me specific questions. Introductions are always weird for me. I'm like, I don't.
Oh, that's great. You said you have a 4-year-old, and what was the other age?
A 4-year-old and a 2-year-old.
My God. Hey, the fact that you are able to be here tonight is enough for me. Shout out to all the moms that are out there that are getting ready for Thanksgiving dinner, that are doing all of the things and still maintaining sanity. We appreciate you. I have a question that I put in the caption of this video, but I'm going to ask Andreza here too. Would you rather host the holidays at your house or house hop for the holidays so that you don't have to cook? Put it in the comments below which one of these you would rather do, and tell me which one do you choose. And I'll tell you after.
I think I would rather house hop. You get to try all kinds of foods. You get to go and then leave, right?
Yes.
And then leave, see all sorts of people. So I think I would like to hop.
I 100% agree. Let us know in the comments what you think. And this is going to sound weird, but I am super introverted. I can be super introverted. And at work, I have asked the students that work the front desk to come back and tell me who's coming, like to my office before they come, so that I can know if I need to go out and meet them or whether I need to let them come back to my office. Because it feels like if people come into your space, then you're like trapped in the space. It's like, okay, how do I tell you to leave? Because you're here. But to go to other people's houses and hop around, I think that would be ideal for me. Plus, you don't have to clean up your own house when they leave. And it's just not that awkward energy of people lingering around. Big fan. I agree. Let us know in the comments what you think. Would you rather house hop for the holidays or host at your own house? If I could get somebody to come and clean my house after it and cook the food, most of it, and I just do the desserts, I think that I would host for sure.
That sounds like a great combination.
But there's a lot of things that got to come together for that to work out. So Andreza also has a blog that is called Seasoned with Grace. Am I correct? And so tell us a little bit about what that blog is and where that came from.
Yeah, so my husband actually came up with the name. I was trying to think of something, I guess, unique and something that not only was about food, but was about life. I just wanted something that encompassed everything. And at the time we were going to a church called Grace Bible Church, and he threw out Season with Grace. And I was like, okay, that's unique. I like it, but tell me why. Like, what are you seeing? And so he was just like, well, I think so much of what you want to do talking to me is that you want to encourage people to have yes, make better choices for themselves. Yes, make delicious foods for themselves. That's kind of where the seasoned comes in when it focuses on food. But as far as like life, you want people to be able to extend grace to themselves when it comes to, whether named to vegetarianism, you want them to have not only extend it to other people, but obviously to themselves, and not, beat themselves up, or when they're thinking about, like, I slipped a little, like I was really trying to stay on track for this one thing. And it's just like, it's okay. Like, it really is okay to take baby steps towards those goals and not just, overwhelm yourself with making life choices or food choices or anything like that. And so just Season with Grace encompasses both the food aspect and just life in general.
I think that's dope. And to tell you a little bit backstory about me, like where even the food, faith, and fear comes from. And so I'm in school right now, and I'm in school for counseling. And I also went to school earlier in my life for culinary at a time where if I was who I am now, then I would have just learned on YouTube. But then I was like, I have to go to this place and learn these things here. And I've always really loved food, and I've always seen a connection between like how you eat and how you live. And I've always thought about God through the lens of food, and just like I think that food means more than I think we even give it credit for. It's easy for us to slip into like just have habitual eating or emotional eating and not consider like the magnitude of which God placed on food that He allowed us to eat. I thank God all the time when I'm blessing my food. Like, thank you for letting me eat, because we could have just been like plants and been photosynthesis, but it's like God allows us to eat, and I think that that is amazing as well. And so in my counseling, I hope to do holistic wellness in a way that brings in your eating habits, which is why I ask you, even if there is any nutritionists out there that are watching this, I would love to get a nutritionist on eventually to talk with them through this too. And so I think that it's really cool, your Season with Grace, the entire idea of it, being able to show yourself grace through that. And I think that more and more people need to learn what it looks like to have a healthy relationship with food. And so I'm going to take some time to tell you what I mean when I say healthy relationship with food. And what I mean is that to be able to eat for the reason of eating and not for an emotional reason, and not like a joyful reason, but like not like, oh, I'm feeling sad, let me eat to cover up. I'm feeling this and I'm feeling angry, like let me eat to mask these things so that it creates an issue within your life. When you have a healthy relationship with food, you don't allow yourself to be a slave to it. And so I think that that is what I'm saying when I'm saying having a healthy relationship with food. And if I'm honest, I don't think that I always have had a healthy relationship with food. I think that even now I go back and forth with using the word addiction seems like a strong word, but I do go back and forth with just enjoying food to the point where it's to my own detriment sometimes. And I think even we talked about this a little earlier, and there is in no way am I saying, and I hope that I believe that Andresa would say the same thing, that in no way are we saying that you need to follow our path distinctly when we're talking about this, that we're not nutritionists, we're not these experts in these fields, we're talking from our own experience. And in no way in any of this conversation am I saying that you need to become a vegetarian after watching this. But I am saying that I have tried that path several times, which we talked about earlier before we started. And I was not successful because I was just not disciplined. I just did not want to tell myself no. And so I was like, I'm gonna eat what I want to eat. But then I was listening to Common, who's a rapper, earlier this year. And he was saying that when you figure out how to have a healthy relationship with food, that other things in your life start to fall into place. And I think that that's because when you eat, eating is not something you can avoid, right? Like, it's not like you can go 3 days and be like, it's not a temptation where you're like, I'm just not gonna eat no more. Like that's something that you have to do. So you have to learn how to engage in that healthily. And as you develop that discipline, I think that that plays into everything else in your life. And so one of the things that I saw on your website is that Season with Grace is a plant-based diet. And so tell me, what does it mean to be plant-based?
So it means that you really just don't consume any animal products. So everything that you're eating is fruits, vegetables, and legumes, grains, and nuts and seeds. And so you're not eating, dairy, no yogurt, and no meat, obviously, eggs, which whenever you say it like that, I see your face. It just seems like, so basically all you eat is like salads and
I'm thinking.
smoothies, and the answer is no. I think it's more diverse than that. Like, simply put, it's that. But I think when you look at all that you can do with all of those things, fruits and vegetables, you just learn to be creative. And it doesn't mean you have to be like a master chef. Like, if you go and follow me on Instagram, seasonwithgrace.blog, you'll see that a lot of the stuff, it's like, oh, she's eating tacos, or like she ordered pizza, or, like, you can still eat delicious food and still focus on eating like a plant-based diet free of those things. Mm-hmm. And I is for everything, like just literally everything. And it's actually good. Like, vegan cheese that melts, or, yogurt that's as thick as Greek yogurt, or milk that, none of it tastes like dairy, obviously, but it does taste good. And if all you want is to mimic that, then you're going to find ice cream that tastes just as good. So that's kind of what I mean when I say plant-based eating.
That's dope. I think that that's really cool. And I think that maybe this isn't, I chose this topic. I know that there are people watching this that are like, it's Thanksgiving this week. Like, why are we talking about eating healthy this week? Because start today. Why wait? Why would you wait? Like, let's have this conversation now, or at least let's have this conversation now so that you can binge out and then start after that.
Yeah.
Figure out what it looks like to have a healthy relationship with food. I'm glad you said cheese that melts, because that was definitely a concern of mine. I was like, because yeah, it was a concern. But I wonder what inspired you for this journey of being plant-based, and how long have you been on it?
Yeah, so I'll be vegan 4 years this coming summer. So 2021, it'll be 4 years. And really, it was just seeing, it started senior year of college. I took an intro to nutrition class. It was supposed to be an elective. I was a psych and Spanish major. Didn't really have a direction of what I wanted to do with that. But once I took that intro to nutrition class, I think it just went like, I don't know, like everything, a lot of things clicked. That's where I was like, I think I know what I want to do. I don't know exactly what it'll look like, but it will definitely include food and helping people make better choices for themselves. And so just seeing a lot of illness in my family, like just with whether it was diabetics and like aunts and uncles having cancer, just a lot of preventative things and a lot of things that stemmed from what we were eating. And me thinking before having kids, I don't want to pass that on to my kids. I don't want to have these habits now and then, have kids and then try to start to change my lifestyle. That's harder. And wherever you are, obviously it's never too late to start. But I wanted to go ahead and make those changes within myself. And for my husband and I to already be like taking steps that way when we had kids, it was just a thing that we did. So it was just the lifestyle. I didn't go vegan until after I had Bethel, but she had just started eating solid. So it was pretty simple. Like we already making her, her food. And like, I just didn't feel super great about giving her meat, just knowing like what I knew about just how it's processed. And so like, she wasn't even having that much. And it's always easier to like want to give your kids the best and maybe not focus on yourself as much. It's like whatever, I do, you are going to get the best. So like I was always thinking about her and I was like, this doesn't really make sense. I just need to go all in. Like what is holding me back? And so we were actually just talking about it. My husband was just like, I remember the day after your birthday, you were just like, I'm going vegan. And you just did. Like there was no like, oh, like slip in. It was just like, you just went and you did it and you're still doing it. And I was like, yep, I just needed to go all in. So
whole turkey, pun intended. But I think that what you said about family history is important, because that's definitely the times that I've been considering becoming vegetarian or becoming even pescatarian is definitely family. It's been thoughts of my family and things that were preventable, that it just seems like it's a cycle for my family, that I was like, I don't want to get to the end of my life and this thing be the thing that takes me, that I could have been working to prevent it my whole life. And I remember, because I was so naive thinking back to culinary school. I remember being in one of my nutrition classes where we were like counting calories and stuff, and we were learning how to create a menu and to know what these things are. We were talking about high blood pressure. And I honestly, I thought that as you got older, especially being Black, I was like, this is just something that happens. That high blood pressure is not something you avoid. That as you get older, it's just a natural thing that happens to your body. And my teacher was like, no, it doesn't have to. And I was like, what do you mean? Everybody that I know has. And it's just considering that being a mental breakthrough for me. I was just like, I wonder how many other people have considered that the path that your family is on, the eating pattern that they've created. While we eat delicious stuff, it doesn't have to be the path that you choose for your life. And so if that there everything in moderation, that there are things that you can adapt in order to have a healthier life for yourself. And so I wondered, thinking back on in your life and in your family, were there people that were plant-based before you in your family that kind of influenced you to start making those choices, or that walked with you through that change?
Not really. I think the influence that I got from my grandma and my aunts and my mom was just the home cooking. So they cooked everything. And even though we were eating meat, they ate a lot of vegetables and made a lot of vegetables. So that was always kind of a thing that I grew up with. And so that part wasn't that weird. It was like, yeah, we might be eating oxtails, but my mom also would make, the greens on the side and all sorts of sides. And that's still something that she does. Especially since me going vegan, when I go over to their house, she's like, okay, well, guess what do I make for you? So she just makes a bunch of sides. Like we ate beans growing up. We ate green spinach and collard greens. So it's like, it wasn't too weird. It was just removing one component of that. But the home cooking aspect was something that I think really stuck with me. It was like, oh, if I'm not cooking meat, then I get to be creative. Like I saw my grandma be creative in the kitchen. I saw my mom do that. That's pretty simple. I know the basics of cooking, so that wasn't scary to me.
That's dope. I mean, it is. And I think about my cousin that she's pescatarian and she comes back in town for holidays. And we're always thinking like, what can we make that she can eat? Well, not we. We are not. We all are not. I am always thinking like, what can she eat? And it's typically a lot of sides.
Yeah.
And think about becoming a vegetarian. My thought process is that all vegetarians eat is sides.
Yeah.
Is that accurate? Is that a is
no,
that I
I
don't know.
don't. I think it depends where you're going. I mean, like if you're going into your family's holiday meal, most of the time that's all you're going to have, unless your parents or your aunts and uncles are thinking about that ahead of time and prep something, or you yourself say, I'll take care of that, or I'll do my own cooking. That's something that happens a lot. But I don't think so. And I think especially in East Texas, it's easier to be vegetarian than vegan. So with vegetarians, you can still, most of the time, people choose to still eat eggs and drink milk and eat cheese. So that's normal. I mean, you can go to a Mexican restaurant and just get your enchiladas with just cheese or whatever the case is. Vegan is a little bit hard because oftentimes things are cooked in lard, or they use chicken broth, or it comes with cheese, or they forget to take off the cheese even though you asked to put the cheese, because that's not normal here. Like, was that an accident in her order? Did she actually want cheese? It's like, no, it wasn't an accident. Actually, and so it's harder that for people whenever you're going to other people's houses. But I've been doing it so long that I've just adapted. I usually am prepared, and if I'm taking the kids, if I don't know what's going to be there, I usually just bring stuff for the kids, because I'm like, I can just pick off things here and there and eat when I get home if it ends up that there's nothing. But I'm always prepared for the kids.
That makes a lot of sense. So you said that you stopped cold turkey eating with Bethel. And so was that an easy transition for you? Or were there moments where you were like, I wish that I didn't do this?
No, it was pretty easy for her. And truly, I say cold turkey. I gave up dairy first because I was breaking out a lot pretty early on in college. And I stumbled upon an article where this guy said he was really congested and was breaking out a lot. And somebody suggested that he cut out dairy. And he thought that was that was not normal to him, but he did anyway, because he was like, what did I have to lose? So he did, and his skin cleared and the congestion went away. Well, I grew up drinking like whole milk and eating cheese, and I was like, that's kind of weird. I don't know. I didn't see the connection there because that was before I took the intro to nutrition class. So I hadn't clicked there yet. But anyway, I gave it up and my skin cleared. And so, I mean, I'd gone to dermatologists. I was like wearing makeup because I was embarrassed of all the acne. It was just kind of at its worst. And I gotten to the point where I was like, what do I have to lose? So I did, and it cleared my skin. And then I gave up dairy first, and it'd been years where I just wasn't doing dairy. And then I was already not eating pork, and then beef was pretty easy to give up. And then chicken and fish were the last two. And we had just gone on a trip to Costa Rica, and I was eating fish on the trip. And then when we got back, I was like, I'm done. I think that was enjoyable, but the more I thought about it, the more I was like, she's getting to an age where she's going to be watching me. We're going to be in the kitchen together. Like, I want to be able to have good conversations with her and not be, going back and forth. If I'm doing it, I'm doing it. If I'm not, I'm not. So I decided to do it, and I did it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's a really a strong mindset to have, to just say, we're gonna do this. We're gonna do it. Was
Yeah.
your family receptive to that? Your family, your husband, and then like your outside family?
Yeah, husband was on board, still on board. He is not a vegan himself. He, over time, though, over the last 4 years, he probably has gone down to eating like meat 2 to 3 times a month, if that, because he too was making that connection of like, where's my food coming from? And so he's like, I don't want to support an industry that we're not being good stewards of what God gave us. And so these industries that mass produce animals and abuse the land, he's just like, I don't think that's not what he meant when he said, when he gave us those things.
Yeah.
And so he tries to make better choices. So he goes for grass-fed, grass-finished when he can. He eats vegan at home, so we don't cook meat at home. But then, so with him, it was pretty easy. And then stepping out to my mom, like my family, my side, it was just like, I'm sorry, what? What exactly?
It is me. I am them.
Yeah. And so that was pretty hard for my mom. And at first, I think they thought it was like a phase. So it would be like, well, I bought this cake and I thought that maybe Bethel could eat it. And so my question being like, does it have butter and eggs? Yeah, but it would just be a slice. The answer is no. Thank you. Like you're in Houston, you have so many options. You literally could go into a store and find like a vegan option, but it was just kind of that pushback for the longest time. But I was really firm with both my parents, and they were just like, okay, I guess she's for real. And then it was like year one, they're like, okay, I guess she's not playing around, and she really isn't letting her kid eat all the extra stuff. Like she's being for real, and her husband's supporting her in that. Oh, okay. So it was just like then they really came around. And with Dan's family, it was pretty easy on that front. I think it was just them trying to figure out what to make because it was so new. Nobody else was vegan. Not one of my is vegan. And so people are like, oh, okay. Like that is something more people in the family are doing that. But just finding, I think it just makes people stumble a little bit. Like, what does that mean? And it's like, once I break it down, they're like, oh, it's actually really simple. I'm like, yeah, it is really simple. I try not to regurgitate all of these things like, well, we eat this, because it's overwhelming. But then when you see what we eat, it's like, okay, you're eating what we're eating just without certain things. Like you're still eating enchiladas and tacos and pizza and burgers. Like you're still eating all of these things. You've just switched it up a little bit. And in some cases have made it a little bit healthier because just because you're vegan does not mean you're healthier or you're eating healthier. But because there's junk food versions of like for vegans as well, so you could just be eating the same, be eating all the burgers, all the donuts, like whatever you want, essentially you can have vegan.
Because aren't Oreos vegan?
They are.
I know some things. I don't know a lot of things, but I know a couple of things. I think that it's super interesting this what you're talking about with your family and having to stand firm in the decision that you made. And even you talked about giving up dairy and just how that cleared up your skin and just how that kind of just reinforced the confidence in maybe I do need to start making these changes. I think that speaks to just being able to make choices on your own 2 feet, and being able to say the hard things, even though this is a hard thing, sure, because food is so important to us. I think that there's a lot of situations in our lives where we look like, well, I want to try this, and then people are like, no, you can't do that, and you're like, oh, well, I guess I won't do it. I guess this little bit is okay. Like maybe we can just taste this, and then we'll be vegan when we go back home, or maybe we'll just do this here, but then when we go home, we'll do it there. We'll do what we want to do there. I think that speaks big to being able to say like, hey, this is what we're doing. Please be respectful of what it is that we're doing, because as you set your boundaries, because we've talked about boundaries on this channel a lot, as you set those boundaries for the people around you, then eventually they learn to sit within your boundaries. But if you're flexible and you're just like, oh, maybe not, I don't know, sure, whatever you want, then people will take advantage of that. Not to say that your family is taking advantage of you, but just to say that like in anything, if you allow people to be flexible with your boundaries, then they will. If you give a mouse a cookie, he will ask for the whole box. I don't know if that's the words to that story, but you know what I'm saying. And so I think that I know that for me, at first, the perception of being vegan was that it was expensive and that was a deterrent for people for becoming vegetarian or becoming vegan. Is that true?
No, it's not.
Tell me true.
It's not true because if you are trying to focus on the basics, right? You're trying to focus on eating fruits, vegetables, legumes, and your grains and all of that. That itself is not expensive. All the extra stuff adds to that because, like I said, there are alternatives to everything. There are alternatives to milk and cheese and eggs and yogurt. I mean, there's alternatives, and you don't need those alternatives, right? Like, that's just extra stuff. And so the more you add of those things, the more expensive it gets. You want breakfast sausage? Well, that's going to, like vegan breakfast sausage, well, that's going to cost extra. You want, the cashew cheese, that's going to cost extra. And all of that stuff is delicious. Like, I've tried most of it, or a lot of it anyway. And I feel like there's always new stuff coming out because there's such a big demand for vegan things. Like, I'm in Nacogdoches right now. And when I think about some of the coffee shops in town, I'm like, do you know what it would do to add a vegan thing on your menu? Like, and it's not just for vegans, it's people who are lactose intolerant. It's people who, are trying to eat gluten free, and some vegan things are most likely gluten free. So it's like you're just kind of opening up that market because there is such a big demand for it. And so it just depends who you ask. If you are in Houston or Dallas or Austin and you're hitting up Whole Foods, well, yeah, they're going to take like everything. They're going to take all your money because everything there is beautiful and it's new and it's fun and it's trendy. It's delicious, but it does cost money. But if you stick to the basics, it doesn't have to be expensive at all.
Yeah. I think that maybe even that expensive, people use that word because it's easy to say expensive, but because being a vegetarian or being a vegan, it does require some prep. It does because especially in East Texas, because there aren't these options that are out there, it does require you to say, I'm going to do some preparation for my house, rid of some things. Like, I'm going to set us up to be successful in this. Because I think that even going back to me and trying to be pescatarian and trying to be vegetarian, that if you don't have that preparation in place, it's easy to say, I'm going to just go to this place because I know that I got something that I like, rather than say, I need to go to the store and buy these things and make this for my family. And then you're like, oh, I'm so hungry. I'm not even hungry anymore. I'm just going to go to sleep. And so I think that considering those things that people throw around the word expensive, but what they're really saying is that it's difficult. And maybe it is a little bit, but the reward is there, I think.
And it takes some practice, right? Like you were saying, prepping. Sometimes you do have to, when you're starting out, you do have to prep a bit more. Just so that you don't put yourself in a situation where you slip, getting the right snacks and like prepping some food that you can easily grab for those times when you're like, oh boy, I could go back and get a Chick-fil-A sandwich. It'd be really quick, but I could just open the fridge and get something that I already prepped. It's good for me. I'm saving money. I already put the work in and made it, and just thinking through that early on. But then after a while, you kind of just, it becomes easy. It's kind of like muscle memory. Like doing something new, it takes a little bit of work. When you're learning how to ride a bike, it takes a little bit of work. When you're learning how to drive, it takes a little bit of work. But now, the more practice you put in, the easier it gets.
That's good. That's really good. I like that a lot. So you talked about snacks, and I got interested. So I'm gonna skip through the questions a little bit. Tell me, what are some snacks? What are vegan, vegetarian snacks that we can eat? Put us on.
Well, we have a Kroger here, and they come out, or they've put a whole lot of things on the shelves. We obviously like your usual tortilla chips and guac and salsa and that stuff, but they have a lot of like crunchy snacks. Like, they have popcorn, but they have like these like puff. I don't even know how to describe them. They're in the chips section, but there's a whole lot of vegan snacks on there. Like, they have pretzels and all sorts of things. You can obviously make your own. I like making energy, like protein balls. I almost always have those in the fridge because if I have a sweet tooth, that's usually what I reach for. Like, I've had to train myself not to reach for the extra sweet things because I used to have a raging sweet tooth. But prepping some things ahead of time, obviously, but our Kroger has a lot of things.
Okay.
Between Kroger and Walmart, like in Nacogdoches, which I'm always just so surprised. I've been here 10 years. And just like, we've come a long way. Like, whenever I go to the big city, I don't even really have to take a cooler bag because I'm like, we have pretty much all of those things. Maybe not the whole variety, the whole line, but Kroger's carrying vegan cheeses and all that stuff. So it's really awesome just checking out different stores and seeing like, wow, the demand is pushing it even to small cities, which is super cool.
Yeah, that is cool. So what's your favorite snack?
Would it be the chips and guac? Because that's what you said first. That's mine. I eat it every day, all day.
That's not my favorite. That's probably my husband's favorite. My favorite is probably plantain chips. The Kroger Cares plantain chips. Those are really good. And I'm trying to remember what they're called. They're these like puff sticks that are made. I'm gonna say they're made out of broccoli or cauliflower, which at first you're like, what? But they're actually really, really good.
Mm. So not only do you are you telling us about these snacks, and I'll make sure that I share those snacks. If I'm gonna go to Kroger and see if I can take some pictures of some stuff to share with y'all if you're interested, or message me and we can get you hooked up with Andresa's if you're really interested, because I can only do so much, but she knows so much more. But not only do you know about these snacks, but from your Instagram page and your blog, it looks like you have some recipes that you've practiced and that you've honed in for your family specifically. And there are some cakes that you make that look beautiful. Just beautiful. Just like if just nothing else, they look beautiful on the Instagram. And so how do you come up with the recipes that you have?
So oftentimes I try and veganize things that I already liked. Like I was missing spinach artichoke dip. So I kind of just looked at a bunch of recipes. So oftentimes I will have like 5 to 10 tabs up on my computer if I think of something that I'm trying to veganize, and I'll see what people have already done and then work with what they have. And if I don't have something, swap it out for something that I do have that may work best. But that's kind of my starting point oftentimes, because it's like, man, I want spinach artichoke dip, but I don't want the cream cheese. What else can I make that with? Oh, I can make that with cashews. Soak the cashews, blend the cashews, put the artichoke, the spinach, and whatever else I have, spices, and then bake it. And then I follow several people that I've just been following for the last long while, and I'm always just amazed at the things they come up with. And I can send you some of those. Yeah, I can text it to you for people who are interested in starting out. And I usually recommend them because their recipes are really simple. They're just, they get straight to the point, and then they're using ingredients that you'll likely have access to. Like they do use some stuff that it's like, oh, I'll probably have to order that online. But most of the stuff they also have a YouTube account, so you can follow along with their videos. But their recipes are simple and really good for beginners or people just, trying to dip their toe in and just eating more plants.
Yeah, that's dope. So next question is, of the recipes that you tried, that you veganized some things, what was something that you made that you were like, man, this is it. This is excellent.
Yeah, biscuits and sausage gravy. That's like our go-to that we make for people who are not vegan. And I have not had a single person say, "Oh, that's weird." Like literally everybody's like, "What?"
So in this scenario, what is the sausage?
It's a plant-based sausage. It's called Beyond. Well, no, we don't use Beyond. Beyond is another brand, but we typically use one that's made with like, I think it's got like apples and spices in it, but they use vital wheat gluten. So gluten gives it like a meaty texture, and oftentimes you can like steam it or boil it and then or bake it, but it gives it like a sausage type thing. But you crumble it and you turn it into sausage gravy. So that's like my husband's duo recipe. He makes the sausage gravy and I make the biscuits.
One day y'all should just make your own line of sausages. I would like to support it.
One day.
I would like to support it. So what about for your daughter? What kind of snacks if there's a mom out there that is like, I'm considering becoming a vegetarian, or I would like to offer some healthier snacks to my child, what are some healthy snack options for them?
So always have fresh fruit around. So I do fresh fruit. And then I pack some chia pudding for her, which chia pudding is pretty easy to make. It's not my favorite, but she likes it, especially because I add a little bit of maple syrup, but it gives them some protein and omegas, which is really great for, heart health and brain and all of that stuff. And then what else? I do fresh fruit, chia pudding. Um, and then I'm a partner for a company called Juice Plus, and they have a vegan protein powder, but it has a ton of plants in it. And so with it, you can add it to your smoothies, of course. But I also just make a pudding. So I put in like a scoop of the chocolate protein powder, and I
Oh,
might, hmm,
say, come on, chocolate. You can't go wrong with chocolate, anything.
spoon of some vegan yogurt, and I add just a little bit of almond milk and mix it, and it's the texture of pudding. So that's what she's enjoying it, because she's like, it's chocolate, but it's also got a ton of good stuff in it. So I'm like, you're getting more plants in. And then what else do we do? And then I do something crunchy like pretzels. She likes seaweed. That's a really good one. It's like salty. Popcorn, just really simple snacks that are like, easy to pop into her mouth. But I almost always do fresh fruit. At least one little container of fresh fruit goes in her snacks.
That's what's up. That's helpful. And I was looking earlier today about some nutrient dense foods, and seaweed is on there as well as kale. There's a lot of fishes that are on there, potatoes.
There's liver that's on there, which it can be nutrient dense if it wants to be. That doesn't mean I'm going to eat it. And then blueberries are on there too, and dark chocolate. So yeah, I think that I was in the right vein when I was trying to research to be educated about having this conversation with you. And so I think we're going to get ready to wrap it up, but I want to know why do you think that it's important for people to be thoughtful about what they're eating? Because mindfulness is a big trend now. Everybody's wanting to be mindful about this. Everybody's wanting to do yoga and be thoughtful and self-care. I'm going to care for myself. But it's like, but why though? Like, make sure that first off, there's a disclaimer to everybody out there trying to do self-care. Make sure that self-care is not just you being indulgent, that it's you caring for yourself. Let's make sure that we're keeping that in the forefront of our mind. Not to say that you shouldn't spoil yourself, just to say that when you're throwing those things around, make sure that you're taking care of yourself. You're not caring for yourself to the point where you don't have no money no more, because that's not self-care, that is debt. So let's keep that in mind as we're caring for ourselves. Self-care can be you saying, I'm gonna make doctor's appointments and I'm gonna go to the doctor to make sure that I can be preventative of what's going on in my body and not reactive to what's going on in my body. Considering self-care outside of the scopes of getting your nails done. Not to say that it's not good to get your nails done, just to say, let's consider a full picture of what it is. So why do you think that it's important for people to be thoughtful about what they eat, to be mindful about that?
It affects so much of what we do. I think about older people, especially in their 50s and 60s, thinking about, you have a grandchild, but if you're sick and you're ill and you're not active, you can't spend time with your grandchild. Like, you can't chase after your grandchild. You can't, make the trip to see your grandchild because you're so ill and you're so focused on yourself and having to take care of yourself all the time, and you don't have the energy to also put forth towards those around you. And so I think it can just be debilitating when you're not taking care of yourself. It affects you, but it affects the people around you as well, because it's not enjoyable. Like, life is not enjoyable. You're not enjoying being with those around you because you're sick and you're hurting and you're doing all these things to take care of yourself. And so I just think it's important for it to not just be like, to not just focus on the meal right now. It's like, well, this is good. Or people are like, I mean, I'd rather eat good than, if I'm going to die, at least I'll die happy. And it's like, well, chances are you're probably not going to be happy. Like, a lot of people that I see who are like visibly ill, I'm like, they're not enjoying their life. Like, they're still around, but it's a struggle to get around. It's a struggle to get in the car. It's a struggle to get out of the car. Everything hurts and joints hurt. And they're going to all these doctor's appointments. And it's like, is that really how you want to live? Because that doesn't sound like you're really living. That just sounds like you're, kind of coasting until life ends. And that's just not, I think that there's more to life than what you're eating right now. And if you focus on what you're eating right now and make it something that is not only going to affect the right now, make it enjoyable, yes, but in 5 to 10 years, you've prevented so many things because you gave your body what it needs. I just think our bodies are fascinating, and I think God did something like just the things that it can do naturally. Like my husband and I were talking about this a couple of days ago, just like I think my daughter hit something or hurt something, and she was like, "Ow, ow, it hurts," and I was like, and she was going to be fine, but I was like, how fascinating that there are nerves shooting up to your brain right now, or like signals, just the happening that tell your body like something hurts. And if you had a cut, like white blood cells would be activated, and then like all of the thing that just happens like automatically.
Yeah. Even thinking about like medication, that some people that they're having these imbalances that are happening, that you take this medicine, that your body adapts to the medication that you're taking. And it's like, I need to do whatever this medication is telling. Like, how creative was God that he allowed our body to not just exist, but to be able to adapt to the world that's around us. Even if you're thinking about counseling, I get excited about this kind of stuff because you talked it to me. But I think that if you think about counseling, you think about traumatic incidents that happen to people when they're really young, and how that changes everything in your body and your fight or flight senses and all of these things. And while it's unfortunate that trauma does that to you, yes, how fascinating is it that your body, in an effort to protect you, changed how you react to everything around you? And so thinking about making those healthy life choices in that form, not thinking about, I want to lose weight, I want to make this healthy choice so that I can look like this, or but making those healthy choices because you want to live a life where your body is living to its full potential and it's doing everything that God enabled your body to be able to do. And it's already amazing. So why not fuel yourself in order to operate at the highest potential that you can operate at? And so that is my encouragement to anybody that is watching this, is just take care of yourself, because you can't pour from an empty cup. Make sure that you're taking care of yourself and that you're setting those boundaries for yourself in thoughts, in food, in everything that it is that you're doing, so that you can be in control of the tool that God gave you and you can use it to its best potential. And so I just want to say thank you so much for joining us today. I'm very excited. I'm glad that we had this talk. And if you're looking for Andresa, tell us where we can find you.
Yeah, so you can find me on Instagram at seasonwithgrace.blog. And then you can also find me on my website, seasonwithgrace.blog. And between those two, you should be set.
Awesome. I'm going to put those links in the comments for you guys. Thank you so much for joining us, and have a happy holiday time this week. Bye, y'all.
Bye.